This is Desi Arnaz Jr. Let me introduce you to Vernon Howard. As you listen to his teachings, you may feel that they are truly different, that they have a new and refreshing attraction. That feeling is the dawn of a higher life for you. So listen as if these ideas can lead you all the way up to the mountaintop, for they can. Here is Vernon Howard.
There was once a man who had a canoe, and he liked to go out on the river with his canoe. And one day he went out and he paddled around upstream and downstream and crossed over to a little island in the middle of the river, wandered around and looked at the birds and the bushes and studied the natural scenery of it. Got back in his canoe, went back to shore, found his lunch there and had lunch. Got back in the canoe again, paddled around the river. Spent all morning paddling around. And paddling can be hard work, especially when you're paddling upstream, right? So as he's paddling around, he suddenly felt a little tired, and he thought maybe a little nap would be the right thing to do just now. So he lay down in the canoe, down inside of it, where he couldn't see anything but the sky as he looked up. And he thought he'd just take a little short nap, just a short nap, 5 minutes or so, no danger there. It's a very slow moving river. And he could get up any time he wanted and direct it toward shore. Well, as he laid down, his mind was taken over by a very beautiful dream. And in this dream, he was many things that he was not in real life. He was a very handsome, dashing, gallant man. And all the ladies chased him. And he was very wealthy, and he wore fine clothes and had a fine mansion. He was wealthy and popular, and he had many exciting activities. And he owned vast property all around his mansion. And this was his dream. And it was such a beautiful dream, he finally remained in this sleepy state and forgot where he actually was. And this went on for a long time. But after a while, after continuing in this dream in which he was the center of everyone's admiration, and he was joyous and happy every minute, after a while he became aware of something impinging upon his ear. And he didn't want to hear whatever it was. Whatever was coming into one of his ears as he was lying down there, whatever it was, he didn't want to hear it because it was interfering with his dream. And not only was his dream of what he was, of the greatness that he had now, but even greater greatness in future years. He had a greater future to look forward to. He already had $1 million. Someday he had $5 million. So he didn't want anything to interfere with what was going on in his mind and in his feeling. He's very soft and comfortable and beautiful, and he could just close his eyes and let the dream live his life out for him. But this voice kept pounding in his ear, and he resented it. But it got louder and louder, and he couldn't push it away. He wanted to go back to sleep, but the voice kept pounding in his ear. And he found that a great violent hatred for the voice swelled up inside of him. Because he couldn't dream as peacefully as he wanted to as long as the voice kept interrupting the dream. And so groggily, he tried to find the location of it, and he managed to put one hand on the edge of the canoe, and he got himself up a little bit, still 3/4 asleep. And he looked over and he saw a man on horseback riding along parallel with him with the canoe, and he sensed that the canoe was drifting downstream. And he sensed that the man on the horseback galloping along the shore was yelling at him and trying to tell him that the canoe was drifting downstream. And he knew what was down at the end of that stream. There was a great waterfall. And for a long time, with his hand on the edge, the rim of the canoe, his groggy mind couldn't get the clear picture. He hated that man who was yelling, "Wake up and see where you're going." He hated that man. Yet he vaguely understood what he was saying, and yet he loved his dream more. He wanted him to go away and let him sleep and let him dream. At that point, he has a choice. He has a dim awareness of what is going on that shore. And what is going on is someone is yelling out, "Sir, you're in danger. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Listen to me. Shake off your sleep. Shake off that dream. And listen to what I'm telling you. If you don't, you're going to go over the waterfall." He can fight the sleep, which he senses is the right thing to do, the necessary and the intelligent thing to do, and listen to that voice until his awareness of where he is and of what he's doing is so clear that it becomes stronger than his wish to sleep. That's one thing he can do. When he gets to the 51% mark, where he wants to listen to that voice and listen to what it's trying to tell him, when he gets to that point, I'll tell you what he's going to do. He's going to shake his head and he's going to grab that paddle and he's going to paddle for shore as fast as he can. And the other choice is to close his eyes, shut off the vision of that man, fall back into the boat so you can't hear the voice quite as clearly anymore, and fall back into a complete sleep, having surrendered your life to that state of falsehood. Now, you're seated here in this room. As long as you're here listening to what I'm telling you, you still have a chance. You don't know you're asleep. You don't know what I'm talking about when I tell you every one of you seated here is in a state of psychic sleep. Do you recognize any of the dreams that I described, or did you have ones that I didn't have time to fill in? What are your particular dreams? One of them being that you are safe sleeping in that canoe? Don't you notice the shocks you get every day that is the beginning of the rapids? Do you know that when you conceal hatred, that you're putting yourself into a deeper state of sleep? Don't you know when you just, what you call praying and hoping to yourself that something's going to turn up and change for you, don't you know that you're putting yourself into a deeper state of sleep? You had better listen to what you are being told tonight. And you'd better determine, as a couple of the men before said, you'd better determine that you're going to come back here to every meeting, because you in your present state are not capable of rescuing yourself from the canoe. I know that. And I know that if you don't come back, you're going to go into deeper sleep and you won't even know it. That man decides that he doesn't want to be rescued, that he wants to dream about being rescued. When he goes back to the bottom of that canoe, I will tell you, the time will come when he will no longer be able to hear the voice of that rescuer on the shore. He will no longer hear it because he has refused it. He doesn't want to hear it. He's decided what he wants to do with his life. What a tragedy. You have come here tonight, and perhaps for the first time you've heard higher truths. You've heard something, listen to this please. You've heard something that is authentically religious in the real meaning of that term. The real meaning of that term being that you can change the kind of a human being you are inwardly, and that new person that you are inwardly will react in a new way to everything outwardly, so that you're in command of your life at all times. So that all the costumes that you put on daily, all the false facial expressions, all the nervous little habits you have of trying to appear to be nice and friendly, aren't you glad when you can go home and take the mask off, take the uniform off, and be yourself? Oh, I see. When you do that, when you take the mask off, you become scared. Of course you do. Even when you take a mask off just for a little bit, you don't know who you are. And even the strange relief you feel of having taken the mask off doesn't last very long. Because you've had the habit of taking off a social mask out in public and putting on another one at home, which is your daydreams and your sleep. Do you know that it's a dream when you hate anyone? And you all hate. You hate yourself. I'm telling you that that's a part of the dream state. Would you stand for anyone taking a whip and whipping you all day long? You wouldn't put up with that. Well, what kind of intelligence do you have, or rather not have, that you would let yourself, your old nature, whip yourself all day and all night as you presently do? It's not very smart. It doesn't have to be that way, and I'm telling you that, and you listen to what I'm telling you instead of your old masochistic nature, which just loves to be bullied, which loves to be threatened, which loves to be afraid. Because when you're afraid, you can get an identity out of that. And then you can pray to your phony gods that you have built up out of your own imagination and say, God will save me. How come you've never been saved? To see through the horrible lie is a long, hard experience. You can do it. You can succeed in this class. If you don't want to be bitten by the lions anymore, then it doesn't make any sense to go out in this world and hang around the lions, because they have no choice but to bite you, as they've done in the past. If you want to be the conqueror of every lion, every phantom, every fantasy, you'll learn how to do it here. The choice is yours. You're in that canoe, and one hand is on the rim of it, and you're groggy, and you faintly hear the voice, and you fight a little bit, and then you go back to sleep a little bit, and you hear the voice, and then you say, I think it is better to give up, and your hand starts to slip off, and it falls down inside the canoe, and you go back. Only by coming to every class that it is possible for you to attend. Only by doing that can you get sufficient jolts. Can you hear the voice so continuously so that the time comes that you can no longer ignore it. You want to ignore it now because your sleep is that deep. If any of you in this room tells me, silently or out loud, don't let me go to sleep, I won't let you go to sleep. Do you want it?
Yeah.
If you want to go to sleep, I can shout at you 24 hours a day, and you won't hear. But if you want strength so that your hand becomes stronger, you can pull yourself up a little straighter in that canoe so that your vision becomes clear and you can see the man yelling to you on the shore, wake up, you're asleep, wake up and paddle for shore. If you come here to every meeting, you have a chance. If you don't, you don't. It is as clear as that. And if you didn't hear me, you will go out of here never knowing what you missed. You will never know what the shore is like because you weren't there. You stayed in the canoe and dreamed you were on shore. If you will listen, if you will be receptive, you will hear the voice till the time comes when you can no longer ignore it, where the greatest joy and pleasure of your life will be to pick up the canoe and paddle as fast as you can to authentic safety.
You have been listening to Vernon Howard. Write to us for a free list of his books, tapes, and lectures. Add $3 for a copy of his new book, Cosmic Command. Write to us and send contributions to Vernon Howard, Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada. Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada, 89005. This is Desi Arnaz Jr. Let me introduce you to Vernon Howard. As you listen to his teachings, you may feel that they are truly different, that they have a new and refreshing attraction. That feeling is the dawn of a higher life for you. So listen as if these ideas can lead you all the way up to the mountaintop, for they can. Here is Vernon Howard.
Responsibility develops with the knowledge of what it means to be responsible. A small child can begin to be told about responsibility and given practical exercises such as mowing a lawn in developing it. And he can begin to get the idea that the time will come in his or her life when he or she must properly be on his own. This is elementary responsibility, and every parent who really loves their child, who cares for their child, who understands a little bit himself about life, will most certainly give that child responsibility so that the main lesson behind it will begin to develop early. The lesson that you are here on earth to live your life, not someone else's life, and not try to steal someone else's life, but to develop your very own existence here on earth. If a child can begin to get the lesson that's given to him, and which is so often failed to be given to him, a child can see that he must do certain things in order to gain other things, that idea will become properly fixed in his mind. As much as he rebels against it at the start, any little child, the first time parent tells him, now you empty the trash, you take it from the kitchen out to the alley back there. The first several times, he's not able to understand it. Why? Because up to this point of his life, everything has been done for him. As he gets to be 5, he develops certain elementary responsibilities. He gets to be 10, he develops more. Now, a person who has developed this elementary responsibility is the only person who is qualified to shift from social responsibility to spiritual responsibility. You remember how often we've said here that only if your intellect, your mind, your ordinary intellect begins to work properly can you begin to rise above it. Because if you use it to the full extent that you can use it in running your business and taking care of your home, you will see that indeed there are limitations to it. And when you see the limitations of your mind, it makes you very curious and very eager to see if there's something higher than that elementary responsibility. Now, a person who has not developed certain preliminary training in doing certain things for himself, when he gets a little older, he will make a decision, and most people make the wrong decision. He will make a decision to either begin to go back and develop them from the start, or he will decide to go all the way in the other direction, which is abandonment of responsibility, abandonment of the opportunity that he has here to grow into something different. As a matter of fact, he will never know that he's missed the point of life because he didn't take the first elementary responsibilities that were given to him. Now, we've already talked about social responsibility, taking care of yourself, earning your own living, doing certain practical things with your life that everyone must do. You've seen that that is essential. But you must take your social responsibilities not because you're forced to do them, but because you see that they're a natural outcome of your present level, a present necessity of your present level. And that way you don't resent them, you just go ahead and do them because you know they're the right thing to do, and you understand that they are maybe the 3rd or 4th or 5th grade, which if you perform them properly, you can go on up to higher grades until the time comes, maybe, in some cases, where you've seen that you have done all you can for yourself, and you're still not happy. You're not fulfilled. You've been very responsible in taking care of your business, yes, of course, and you made a lot of money. And you can't figure out why all that nice home and that nice respectable family and all that hasn't given you any completion, no inner completion. You can't figure out why, if you have done your responsibilities up on the social level, if you've done that, how come you're not happy? A person reaching this stage where he has become mentally mature, up to a degree, mentally mature, runs into a very difficult situation which a careless person, a lazy person, never reaches. Because you've come up to the point where you've said, I've done everything I can do. Look, I've taken responsibility for myself. I've done everything I can do to be happy, and yet I know in my heart that it's been denied me. This is a wonderful experience for anyone who goes this far, because it's the beginning of the breaking down of self-delusions in which you say, I can make myself happy. That's a falsehood. But you'll never know it's a falsehood until you've gone beyond the preliminary responsibilities of taking care of yourself. When you get to a certain point, then, you begin to question all of life. And a certain new, listen to this please, a certain new kind of bitterness enters into you. Some of you may recognize what I'm talking about in your own experiences. A new kind of feeling that you've been cheated. And isn't this strange now? Here you're successful, maybe you have a nice home and you have all the things that society says you should have. You have all these things, and yet you still feel cheated, and it's a very confusing emotion, because you feel as if you've missed something, but what is it? You look around, what is it? I've got everything you said I should have, the money, the home, the car, and the power, and the influence. I've got all that, and yet there's something missing. What is it? That's the question, isn't it? Well, it's a long, long ways yet from where you first start to say, what is it that I'm missing, until you finally find it. Because when you ask the question, you will answer it, won't you? Who else is going to answer the question? If it isn't this wife, then it's another wife, right? If it isn't this husband, then it's that nicer looking man that I met the other day. If it isn't all this money, then it has to be travel. That's it. Money was made to spend, so I'll go traveling somewhere. What I've described to you, these external things, is a very, very small part of the person's world in which he's beginning to wonder why he isn't fulfilled. And he'll look inward to himself and ask himself all sorts of questions. He'll say, well, maybe it is indeed something inside me. I know what it is. I'm not spiritual enough. So he'll get what he calls a religious experience of some kind. Or he'll get whatever he calls kind of excitement that seems to satisfy him. The inner and the outer working together. Only the person who keeps the question alive will ever come to the final right conclusion of what his responsibility is in life. Now, keeping the question alive means to never settle for any kind of an answer you can get out of your own mind or the mind of any other human being. This means you're going to have to search not in just 1,000 places, because this is the characteristic of the mind, to search, but 10,000 places. And when you get to 10,000, you'll say it's the 10,001. And when you get to 50,000, you'll say it's 50,001. It's always the next, right? It's always the next thing that's going to fill up this void, this heartache, this sadness in the face and the sadness in the voice. If you keep the question alive, but what is it, long enough, and keep going long enough till everything is exhausted, you will then indeed come to the question, the right question: what is my true responsibility as a human being who's been put here on earth? The question will become the answer will become very clear to you. You've heard the question, and the answer becomes very clear after, just to pull a figure out of there, after 100,000 goals, aims, whether you've succeeded or failed in them, so that you never again ask the question, what is the next thing, and will that do it? Because you know there is no answer. You knew it years ago. You knew it when you're furiously trying to make all that money and making all these human contacts and making all this effort to be liked by the people down at the office. You knew it way down deep inside that you weren't going to succeed the way you were going, but you still wouldn't stop and examine that feeling that says you're on the wrong track. And if anyone ever tried to tell you the truth, you would reach inside your own mind for infantile reactions to immature irresponsibilities. You would reach inside your own mind and come up with the usual answer to anything that tries to get anything through your head. And those reactions are as varied as the rocks out in the field there. One of the most terribly successful rejection of the truth that's trying to tell us we're on the wrong track and put us on the right track. One of the most commonplace rejections is ignoring, is being very careful that you're in a position where you can ignore the gnawing, the haunting that's going inside of you, so that you can ignore it and do something exciting instead. This will make it necessary for you to have a stock of angry responses ready at any given moment. Because at any given moment, no matter where you go, there's always this sensing way deep down inside that you are being irresponsible, that you're not taking proper adult responsibility, spiritual responsibility for yourself. And your lives are then spent in finding ways to get out of doing what you know you must do.
You have been listening to Vernon Howard. Write to us for a free list of his books, tapes, and lectures. Add $3 for a copy of his new book, Cosmic Command. Write to us and send contributions to Vernon Howard, Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada. Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada, 89005. This is Desi Arnaz Jr. Let me introduce you to Vernon Howard. As you listen to his teachings, you may feel that they are truly different, that they have a new and refreshing attraction. That feeling is the dawn of a higher life for you. So listen as if these ideas can lead you all the way up to the mountain top. For they can. Here is Vernon Howard.
The power of this class is that we won't let you go down the path to your own destruction. We're calling out to you, just a minute. Slow down. Take a look. We're not trying to hurt you, which you think. We're trying to get you to take a look at yourself as you are in your irresponsibility, in your childishness, in your evasiveness, in your wish to turn aside and run off like a little child, instead of slowing down long enough to say something terribly shocking to yourself. Let's see if you have ever said the following, or whether you're willing to say the following. I have been wrong all my life. Here I am, and state your age to yourself. Do you think, whatever your age may be, those of you in this class or those of you watching this film, are you able to look at your age, whatever it may be, and have the responsibility, the spiritual responsibility, because we're going above social success into authentic spiritual success. Are you able to slow down long enough and say to yourself, you don't have to say it to anyone else, keep it to yourself, I've been wrong about everything all my life. And the evidence is so clear right in front of me that I don't want to ignore it anymore. I've tried arrogance, I've tried refusal, I've tried weeping, I've tried running away, and whenever I run away, I go right in a circle and come back and find myself right where I started. But with not quite the same feeling of despair I had before, it is now increased. Because I am now beginning to recognize, although I don't want to recognize it, that no matter what I do, in my way, I always come back to the same scenes, the same kind of people, the same kind of experiences, the same inner trembling, the same dazedness, the same glee over having something to look forward to. I'll tell you, you take away the looking forward tos from people, and you would see their faces collapse right in front of you. What do you think that keeps their so-called happy faces looking happy and looking serene? The fact that when they come to a meeting like this, or they go to work, in their minds they're thinking of what they're going to be doing 3 hours, 10 hours, 2 weeks from now, and that's what keeps them going. And when we get up to that point, they get a certain thrill out of it for just a few minutes, and then they find themselves right back where they started. Now, spiritual maturity can solve all this running around in a circle. But you can't start with spiritual maturity. You have to start with social, mental immaturity. You have to see that you're not responsible for yourself. You had better see how your worship of other human beings, whether it's a politician or a religious officer or a relative or a dream man or a dream woman, You have to see that you don't have any responsibility for discovering why you worship someone else, why you follow someone else, why you want someone else to think for you and to tell you what to do. I'll tell you, you had better look into the kindergarten level of your own mind and see how much work you have to do way down there in this lower grade. Don't you dare think that you can think about spiritual principles, spiritual maturity, spiritual responsibility. Don't you dare think that you can even think about it properly yet. You can't even think about it. And that's a low level of it. Because true spirituality is above thinking about it. You can't even think about it yet. What you can think about is to see how sad-faced and sad-voiced you are presently. Now, can you see that right in front of you is a sign of irresponsibility? Take the word self-interest. That can be applied to financial self-interest, marriage self-interest, sex self-interest, social self-interest of 1,000 kinds. Some of them are legitimate, some of them are not. It's certainly to your self-interest to have bread on the table, to have a roof over your head. We're not talking about that. Can you see where you have refused to start, as I just said, at the lower levels, and see how lazy you are to think so that you don't even think about your condition? It's very curious. If you start to think about your irresponsibility, you won't like it. You won't like it because you don't like to call yourself irresponsible, because you call yourself mature. If there's anyone in this room or anyone watching this film who's going to make it out of themselves, and think about that phrase for a minute, going to make it out of themselves, that's the point of life. If there's anyone here who's going to do that, please don't think about spiritual matters. That is easy to do. Anyone can do that. Then you can settle down to your gloomy little worship of what you call God. You can settle down to your monotonous little life. Listen to this, please. Your spiritless life, in which you have no energy at all, except to complain, except to feel sorry for yourself. When you get to the point where you can think about spiritual maturity, spiritual ideas, you'll see that it consists of a falling away process. It doesn't consist of anything you can do. It doesn't consist of anything you can go toward. It consists of you working inwardly so hard that you understand that things must come to you. You cannot go to them. If you go to them, if you say, I am going toward maturity, toward responsibility on any level, I am going toward responsibility, who is going toward it except your own wish, your own desire, backed up by wrong self-interest? All right, to the word self-interest again. Think about the word self-interest. Now, when you think about it, you will have to, right now, refer to what you think is yourself. Your self-interest. That means, you think it means the interest of your physical body, of your social self, of your pocketbook maybe, of your relations with other people. But we have to use the word self-interest. Let's put a capital S on it so that you can understand that the kind of self-interest, the only kind that is valuable to you and that's enduring to you, is a self-interest with a capital S, which is not connected in any way with your ordinary self. Now we have a word problem maybe a little bit out of the way. This supreme self-interest is 100% responsibility, 100% maturity, because it's the very nature, and it can't be anything but that. And I've told you before, and I've described to you that kind of a life where you have right responsibility, you have the right responsibility because you haven't had false responsibility toward your false life. Repeat, you have not had false responsibility toward your false life, which is all that your present life consists of. And I wonder up to this point in the talk, if you have been aware of any of your reactions, any of the ideas that have come up in your mind since I've been talking. Have you watched the operation of your own mind? That would be the beginning of the responsibility that the gentleman asked about. Responsibility meaning that you are going to go back to elementary education in order to gather the self-knowledge that can begin to lead towards self-change. But if you take it for granted, if you toss it off and say, I don't need anything that's being talked about in that class because I already understand myself and already understand life, you're committing a gross crime against yourself. Put the following picture in your mind. Someone who hears truth, someone who hears mature and responsible principles given to them, they hear them. And that person lightly turns away and scoffs and says, I don't need that. I already have that. How can any human being, well, you know and we all know, how can any human being deliberately commit such a crime against himself as to lightly toss off these truths? To turn away and say, I already have that. I already know that. Now I'm talking to you here in this room, and you're listening to this talk and watching this talk. I'm asking you whether you might be so irresponsible, so immature, that you are not taking seriously the things that should be taken seriously by you because your life is involved. Are you taking responsibility for finding something higher from yourself, higher than yourself, if you are still in a state of dishonesty, in a state of sadness? Are you taking responsibility, or are you brushing it aside like we all brushed aside the responsibilities as much as we could get away with when we were small children? But let me tell you, you are no longer small children. You are no longer small children who can endlessly push away your responsibilities for growing up inwardly.
You have been listening to Vernon Howard. Write to us for a free list of his books, tapes, and lectures. Add $3 for a copy of his new book, Cosmic Command. Write to us and send contributions to Vernon Howard, Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada. Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada, 89005. They have a new and refreshing attraction. That feeling is the dawn of a higher life for you. So listen as if these ideas can lead you all the way up to the mountaintop. For they can. Here is Vernon Howard.
The glorification of suffering is a hideous crime beyond comprehension. And everybody does it, including you, including those of you watching this film. One of your greatest pleasures in life is to be morose, is to be gloomy, is to look out at life like I'm illustrating now myself physically, to look out at life with a dull, glazed look. Because your very heavy spirit is serving your dark state. If you can reinforce your gloom and keep it going, that is all you will have to do, but to remain gloomy. And that's what you want, because now you don't have to make an effort against that state. If you've fallen into a ditch 6 feet deep, here's this ditch going for miles down the countryside, and you fall in it, the easy thing to do is to stay in the ditch and walk along and complain that someone dug a ditch there, or they didn't put enough warning lights there, or someone pushed you in there, and you can have a great time for the rest of your life walking down in that miserable ditch, hating, complaining, and not having to make a single effort to reach up and put your hands up on either side of it and vault out. Because there's something wrong with man's mind, whereas he would rather stay there and walk along and complain rather than put his hands up and get out. And if you tell him, look man, you're very stupid, you fall into the ditch, the only intelligent thing to do is to climb out. Don't call yourself intelligent, call yourself stupid, because that's what you are. If you complain, you are stupid. Because stupidity and complaining are both crimes. Crimes against your spirit. That's a new thought to you, is it? That you are a criminal against yourself? We're developing in this class as an elementary responsibility the urge to get out of that ditch. It's so confining, isn't it? Look, all you've got on both sides of you is this cold, hard dirt and rocks, and it's miserable down there. But one other utterly fantastic thing that a human being does when he's down in that ditch, he says, great, all I have to do is follow the ditch. I don't have to think about where to go. The ditch decides where I go. Do you still think human beings are intelligent in any way at all? If it goes left, all I have to do is go left. It goes right, I'll have to go right. It goes downhill, uphill, all I have to do is follow. Thank heaven I don't have to be responsible for myself. That's right. That's true. You don't have to if you don't want to. And you'll be a miserable little wretch, useless to yourself and to everyone else. Now, it doesn't make sense to walk in the ditch, does it? The only thing that makes sense is to come to a place like this where you're told where you actually are. You can walk in the ditch if you want the rest of your life, and while you're doing that and complaining and hating and fearing, you can put a mental movie in your mind in which you pretend you are not in the ditch, but you're up there somewhere in a beautiful field, having fun, chasing around. I don't care how much you imagine that you're happy. You're not going to be, because those walls are reminding you of it every minute. You know you're restricted. You know that you have no freedom of your own, no liberty at all. But imagination and emotion and self-deception can make you think that you're actually up there and having fun. You're a powerful person in this world. You're loaded with money, or you're on the way, or you have all these fond memories of the past in which you did have it made, and you cling to those. All that's part of the ditch. We will help you in this room to put your hands up, reach up, make an effort, and learn how to vault out of there so that you're not tormenting yourself all day long, all night long, with dreams that will never come true. I'll guarantee you, your dreams will never come true. And why do you dream at all? Why did you get to where the reality is everything that you really need, everything that you really want is out there? Can you understand your inner state? Can you admit that your inner state is one of confusion, it's one of complaint, it's one of bitterness, it's one of very heavy with resentment toward other people and toward life? Can you honestly admit it right here in this room? Or are you so far gone that you are not capable of simple honesty? You had better not go any further down that ditch, because the longer you go down it, the less chance you have for seeing that you're walking in it. Do you understand that? Because the dream becomes more hardened. You refuse to see where you are. Instead, you build a dream world for yourself. And you can't figure it out, can you? You can't figure it out how, if you have it made in your dreams, why you keep feeling these cold walls on both sides of you. And the roots of that tree intrude into the ditch, and you bump into it, and you get mad. You can't figure out why all these, listen to this, you can't figure out why all these unfortunate, painful, scary things continue to happen to you. All these frustrating experiences come along. You can't understand it. You can't understand it because you don't see that another dark part of you insists it knows the answer. How can I tell you with words? One stubborn, lying part of you says, I know the answers to life. I've got it made. The way I live is the right way to live. That's why I live the way I do, because it's the right way. See? Okay, I've got the right way, but it's pounding me. You can't see the... One side says, I've got it made, but if I've got it made, why am I so miserable? You get those two parts together. You see on one hand, your left hand, let's say, on your left hand, how you angrily insist that no one's going to tell you what to do. You know more than anyone in this room, for example. You know more than anybody or anything. I know how I'm going to live, and you're not going to tell me what to do. Okay. I know what to do to make me happy. Then how come you're miserable over here? Is there one person following me? You had better get those two together, and when you do, you will faint psychologically. You'll exclaim, how blind I was. No one could tell me for 30, 40, 70 years that I was walking the ditch pretending I was outside of it. No one could tell me because I insisted upon lying to myself. And I didn't see the contradiction with one side saying, I don't need to listen to anything that goes on in that class. I know what to do with my life. I've got my life settled. I've got my TV shows. I've got my dinners. I've got my friends. I've got my people to talk to. I don't need that. I understand what life is all about. Life's about getting all the pleasure I can and avoiding pain. That's what life is all about. I've got the answers. Here they are. Look, I've got the answers. How come you scream at night? How come your nightmares are so ferocious? I'm trying to get it through. I may do this 10 times tonight to try to get it through. This side says, I know what I have to do and be in order to be happy. Now, you've been saying that how long? You have never arrived, have you? And you never will that way. This side says, I've got the answer. All right. This side says, I've got the answer. This side pounds at you and says, but I'm miserable. Now, there's a contradiction there. There are enemies there. I know what to do to be happy. All right, if you know what to do to be happy, how come this exists? If you really knew, if you really understood, there wouldn't be an opposite to it over here. There would just be happiness. You can't think how to be happy. You can't think on how to be free. That's imagination. That's thinking. I can think about how to be free and walk the ditch for the next 30 years. I can think about it. I can go in imagination over it. And I can say, tomorrow I'll be happy if I'm not now. You stop right in your tracks, wherever you are down in that ditch, and you're all in it. And all of you listening to this tape, too, watching this tape, I know you are. And you know you are, but you won't admit it. You'd better get honest with yourself if you're going to do something with your life. You better stop right where you are in the ditch. Stop right there and take a look around. You look over to your right and you see all that wall there, that cold, wet wall. You see the rocks poking out of it. And then you look over this side, over to the left. You see the same wall over there, and you look down and you see the mud at your feet. If you see that thoroughly, a beautiful thing will happen to you. Now listen, let's go back a little bit. You look to the right-hand wall of the ditch. You look to the left-hand wall of the ditch. And you look down at the ground, and you see all that dirt and all that lowness. If you really see it and see where you are, there will be a great tremor go through you. The tremor is the shattering of the dream, of the imagination you have that you know the answers to life. Because if you know the answers to life, what am I doing here in this ditch? You're beginning to question your lie that I have the answers to life. Now, having gone through that stage of real sincerity, having looked at the left, having looked at the right, and having looked down, there's only one place left to look. And you now sense for the first time what direction that is. And you now know it too, don't you? You can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go down. There's one direction left, and that's up. And you, for the first time in your whole life of trudging that ditch, can see the difference between down and up.
You have been listening to Vernon Howard. Write to us for a free list of his books, tapes, and lectures. Add $3 for a copy of his new book, Cosmic Command. Write to us and send contributions to Vernon Howard, Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada. Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada, 89005. This is Desi Arnaz Jr. Let me introduce you to Vernon Howard. As you listen to his teachings, you may feel that they are truly different, that they have a new and refreshing attraction. That feeling is the dawn of a higher life for you. So listen as if these ideas can lead you all the way up to the mountaintop, for they can. Here is Vernon Howard.
Don't you dare brush aside what we're saying here tonight by saying, I'm responsible, I own my own living, I take care of my own home, I vote at election time, I do everything that an ordinary citizen does that is called responsible behavior. I wonder, please, do you know that we're talking in this room about another world? No, you don't. That's why you ask questions that I just mentioned. You don't have it through your heads yet that there is another world. That's what we're concerned with. We do talk about the social world, the world of families, of economics, of homes, of the relations between a man and a woman. We talk about those things because they are a part of this world. But you don't know that this world is not the only world. Oh dear. You did it again. I know what you just did. You went into ideas. And you went into ideas about how much religious literature you've read, and how you pray, and how you believe in God. That is not the other world. That's this world. But you don't see it. You're not capable, because of your irresponsibility, of seeing that this world is not that world. If you were really mature, spiritually mature, you could see two worlds. You could understand. You'd understand that there is a physical world. Of course there is. And there is a world of economics, a world of sex, a world of marriage, a world of work. There is that world. And you are a slave to it. You are its victim. Every day you're its victim. Oh, excuse me. Every hour. Excuse me again. Every minute you're a victim of it. And you can't figure it out. You can't figure it out because you just said that you're religious or spiritual or you're a positive thinker. If you were all these great things, how come you're still a victim? You are, and you know it, and I know it. I'm trying to lead you to another world which, when you live in it, this will be the one world for you, even while living in this one. When you live in the other world, you also live in this one, and this one becomes completely easy, becomes very light. No burden at all. It's no burden because you're not a part of this old world's burden. You're living in the other world. And you'll go out and conduct your business, or you'll be an employee somewhere. You'll talk to people. You'll live in a home with other people, or you'll live alone, whatever your choice might be. See, the problem in giving a talk like this is that I'm talking about things which your present irresponsible mind can't comprehend. And one characteristic of an irresponsible mind is to reject that which does not conform to its previous concepts. A lazy mind looks out, and unless it's flattered, it says that is wrong. Unless someone agrees with it, it says that person is wrong. That's what a lazy mind does. Among the other things we're trying to do in this class is to cease to be lazy, is to jolt ourselves awake and begin to try to understand where we make the mistake. And already tonight you've been told perhaps 24 ways in which you've made a mistake. For example, the idea of setting up a hero who's going to rescue you. And that hero that you set up, whoever you might be, whatever it might be, your dream of the future, for example, that hero is going to be a projection of your own low mind. So what you are really worshiping is yourself. What greater horror could there be than you worshiping the self that has kept you in the state, the dark state that you're in right now? Do you understand that this is what you're doing? Now you can go out of here with your usual childish anger if you want. You could go out of here and with your usual irresponsibility push aside everything you've heard. And I will give you a guarantee. I will guarantee you that your pain, that your sad heart, and your sad face, and your sad voice will continue to trap you and continue to make you miserable as it has before. That's a guarantee. When you tell people this, that they're going to continue in their pain, they don't understand the horror of that. Because they are so much in love with their tears that they're not going to let them go simply because some man says that tears are bad. Because tears being them, their life, they're going to hang on to them. If there's one of you here watching this film or in this room, if there's one of you here who can begin to challenge your love of sadness, you have a chance to become a mature human being, a responsible human being, and therefore a human being who doesn't hurt other people. If you're spiritually irresponsible, even though you may be socially responsible, if you're spiritually irresponsible, you hurt everyone you touch. There's no choice but for you to do that, because this is what you are. Your irresponsibility, spiritually speaking, is a sign of being an unawakened person, a person in a daze, a person who still glorifies his own efforts and says, look what I've accomplished in this realm. And you will be filled with arrogance. You'll be very touchy if anyone touches you where you're telling a lie about yourself and about one. Therefore, you will hurt everyone on earth, including those that you claim to care for. This is pretty strong stuff. Is there one here tonight who wants the strong medicine? You know the sentence, the medicine is bitter, but it cures. Time to grow up, little children. Time to see that what you've been doing up to this point in your life is your responsibility that is punishing you every day. If you want everything changed, then you come back to a class like this, or you watch a film like this again, similar films to it. You watch them over and over, in spite of the fact that there's a part of you that doesn't want to. And there is that. As a matter of fact, there is a voice in you that screams, don't go back. If you're smart, if you're a really wise man or woman, you won't listen to that voice. You listen to another very, very quiet voice that says, you have been told the truth tonight. Go back. Go back and listen, even if you don't want to. Go back, even if you don't want to. So the whole new kind of self directs your life, so that you're an authentically free and happy and authentically innocent human being. You say you want to be happy? If you really want to be happy, you can be. But it's not your idea of happiness, because your idea of happiness is thrillism, is to get an excitement over something. Even to get angry is your idea of happiness. That's your idea of happiness, to get so angry that you make your physical body sick and you make your spirit sick. That's your idea of happiness. You better change it. And this is the place where you can do exactly that. Isn't that nice? Freedom consists of seeing all these things and doing the right thing with them, which is the state which I just described of no longer being afraid of your own sickness. As long as you're afraid of your sickness, that is part of the sickness. The fear of your sickness is the sickness itself. You can look and you can say, and listen, this comes a long ways off. Don't you dare think you can say it now. Don't you distort what I'm telling you, or you'll deceive yourself, and your latter state will be worse than your first. The time will come when you know that evil, those diabolical actions that go through you, thoughts, feelings, you know absolutely that they are not you, but they're trying to make you think they are. But all these years of hard work have finally paid off. Thank God. That malicious thought, you are not me, and you're not going to kid me into thinking that I am you, because I know I am not. And you got to this state by looking in the first place, by not turning away. And then when you looked, you went on with your lessons. You went on and on and on. At first you were terrified at all these ghosts and goblins and dragons that tried to pass themselves off onto you. But you stuck with it. You kept coming back, and you kept coming to the class, and you kept reading books, and you kept doing the exercises, till the beautiful, marvelous, powerful time comes when you look and you say, you're not kidding me anymore. I know I am not you. And every devil on earth and in hell will tremble, because the force of Almighty God is making it tremble. Not you. But you've invited truth into your life as your only power now. And that's what makes them shake. And when you say this, you will know what you're talking about. You will know what you're feeling. You will know it's true, it's right, it's marvelous, it's beautiful. And it's not you at all. It is happening. You are not making it happen. You didn't try to go to it. It came to you. The truth, the power came to you. Truth has won. And you understand what that means. It means the defeat of your conceited self, the self-glorified self. The defeat of that is victory for God, which is the same thing as victory for you. There's one thing you can start to do, and we make this a very strong point in this class, because I know how the dark forces don't want you to come back here. And should I tell you something? The dark forces succeed far more than the light, because human beings have chosen that. But I'm talking to you, those of you who are new here tonight. If you want a new kind of a life for you, you can start to do one thing for you, which is to persist with these studies, with these truths. That's where you can begin to exercise your muscles, so that you'll know for yourself that everything I've told you here tonight is true, and can be true of you.
You have been listening to Vernon Howard. Write to us for a free list of his books, tapes, and lectures. Add $3 for a copy of his new book, Cosmic Command. Write to us and send contributions to Vernon Howard, Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada. Box 684, Boulder City, Nevada, 89005.
Over a period of time down there in my day-to-day existence, I can think of this group, think of the friends in it, think of the challenges that have been thrown at me, think of the places I've failed, think of the places that I have made a little bit of progress, and I do look forward to coming up as an exciting harbor or sanctuary where I've been out.
All right, fine, fair enough. When you live 300 miles away, you can't come every weekend, so it is something to look forward to, of course. Yes, Dorothy?
Also, when we first come out here, we have been conned, or tried to have been conned, usually both, by so many people in the world who try to come on as an authority and tell us what to do in order to use us for their own purposes, that when we come to a class like this and we hear someone speaking with authority, we, as a automatic, a mechanical response, we become uncomfortable because we think, now, you know, what do they want? What are they trying to get out of us? What do they want from us?
I'm sure all of you have had this feeling at the beginning, one way or another. Jim mentioned something the other day, something that irritated him when he first came here. Let me say something to those of you who are very new here, maybe for the first time tonight. I'm going to state a fact to you. And if you're sound asleep, you won't hear me. You won't hear what I'm going to say. You'll hear my words very clearly. This is the most important event of your life to come to this class. Nothing you have ever met, done, achieved in your entire life is as important as your being here in this room. This is the way out. Now, there you are. I have given it to you. Those of you who are here for the first time tonight, I have no responsibility at all toward you. No one else does. You're responsible for your own life. The question is, now having just heard what I just said, is the blanket already over your head and you'll go back to wherever you live and we'll never see you again? Or do you want to come back here again and be insulted some more, being told how terrible you are, and then told that even that is an illusion? Do you want to wake up, or do you want to go back to sleep? I address myself to those of you who are here for the first time tonight. It's yours. Yes, Jean.
I feel a great sense of freedom here that makes me feel more responsible for myself.
Oh, that's pretty good. Explain a little.
That's it.
Okay. You want to hold it? Go ahead, Jean.
Well, I have read, down through my years that, know thyself. And I never knew, well, how do I know myself? And I feel, at least I'm getting instruction, how to study myself.
Okay, sure. And again, that's good, Zena. For those of you who are here for the first time, one of the first steps in knowing thyself, in knowing yourself, is to know who we are not. Do you know that you're not that angry, furious person? You're not that at all. Do you know that you're not that weeping, wailing, crying person? You're not that person at all. Do you know that you're not that person who achieved something in the past or hopes to achieve something in the future? You're not that at all. That is who we are not. We are not. Look, if we knock that out, and don't say, well, and then I must be something else. If we can knock it out without saying that I must be something else, we'll know who we are, but it won't be on the level of words. Because all our labels are on the level of thought, of words. Or, I'm a big sinner who must be found, find God. You're not that at all. That's nothing. That's a statement. That's a word. Be nothing, and yeah, right, Jim, right. Be nothing, and you'll know who you are. You write that down, please, those who are writers-downers. Be nothing, and you will know who you are. Do you understand that? Who will say that in their own words? All right, look, all our ideas about ourselves are on the level of thought, of intellect, of labels, of words. I am this or I am that. I'm a kindly person, I'm a mean person, I'm a suffering person, and so on. Obviously, these are expressions on the physical level. If you're crying, you're crying. The physical body is letting tears come out and all that. But if you identify yourself as that, you're giving yourself a false label which will keep that negative state going. If you didn't say, I am about to cry, you wouldn't cry, because the saying I'm about to cry, unconsciously of course, and all deep down with all the emotions, that is what makes you cry, and then you get a false pleasure out of crying. When we're whole, capital W-H-O-L-E, when we have no labels, no false identity at all, but simply the true identity of being expression of the all, you're all an expression of the capital A on it. When I have no identity then I know who I am, but I don't have to say it. If I say it, I spoil everything. Correct? So I just have to be wordlessly, silently, mental silence, emotional silence, just silently. When I don't think, then I am. I don't have to think about who I am. I can just be who I am. Then I'm free. Then I'm free of problems. Then I'm free of trying to win over you. Or fear of you winning over me. That won't be there. Because there's no one there. Yes?
When I no longer need to defend myself.
Correct.
I am.
Correct. There's no one there to defend, is there?
Right.
All right. All right. You willing to work hard? Then you can have it. You're willing to start tackling that mountain with the 50 boulders in it and those vines and that tangled growth. You wonder how on earth you're ever going to get through it. Do you know how to get through it? I'll tell you how. You just walk right up to it and just keep going. You walk right up to that thick tangled bush. Don't you stop for anything. Don't you look at it and make it an obstacle by saying it's an obstacle. You want to know a miracle? You'll have to experience it. I can't tell you about it. You have to experience it personally. You climb up to that tangle of bush and you just keep walking climbing right ahead. Don't think about it, just do it. You'll go right through that brush, that tangle. Then you'll see a big rock. Yes.
The first time I came here, you talked about, quote, what the devil doesn't like.
Yes.
Is this feeling that I get sometimes that I'm not working, that I'm really asleep, could that be the false self in myself saying, it's another phony way, just stop and come back to where you have been?
Oh, well, all right. Any negative state is the devil. What else is the devil? You and I are the devil. We've got him in us. Do you know that there's no one devil? There's no big chief devil. You know how many devils there are? I can count them if I knew how many people were in this room. That's right. That's how many devils there are. You thought there was one or two angels among us, didn't you?
That too.
Pardon?
That also.
We have another 5 minutes. You work as we've discussed here, and a year from now, you will know that you're different than you are tonight. That's the guarantee of truth. The guarantee of truth that a year from now, you will be different according to the pressure you've put on yourself to put an end to your fantasies, the punishing fantasies that we've lived in up until now. If you don't work on yourself, if you go out of here, you disappear, you will never know what you missed a year from now. You'll never know what you missed. How can you? How can you know? You will know only when you have changed yourself and can definitely, very clearly see what a different kind of a person you are a year from now, 10 years from now. If you are a raging neurotic, either openly or very, very cunningly concealed, you can be different. You want something different? Or do you love the identity of being a raging neurotic? whom nobody can talk to, nobody can get through to. And so you give yourself up to the devil, and you're welcome to live with yourself. What a prospect. What a prospect for any of us to think that we're going to have to spend the rest of our lives living with us, with me. Do you like living with you? Come on, how many like living with you? Dorothy doesn't like it at all. All right, so that's why we're here. Yes?
You said to us once, the atmosphere we create at home, that's what we are. And my atmosphere is not good. Now, by studying more and having dropped sort of the social life I used to escape to, because seeing through it a little bit, now I'm left only with my atmosphere at home. There's no place to run. Now, I begin to see things I never thought that was talked to me. It's, for instance, the nagging I carry on